Hey everyone, Stelios here, and welcome back to this episode of the Ceres podcast. At Ceres, we believe better businesses build a better industry, and this podcast brings you stories, strategies, and insights to help you grow. Because at Ceres, we don't just want fish and chip shops to survive, we want them to thrive. Today's guest is a real inspiration. Graham Reed-Stephenson is the founder of Fisherman's Wife, and over the last 5 decades he's turned a single shop in Leeds into a multi-site seafood brand across Yorkshire. If margins, brand equity or long-term resilience matter to you, then this podcast with Graham and Mark is up your street. This episode is powered by Ceres Curry Sauce, a rich velvety blend of hand-selected herbs and spices from across the globe. Think warming turmeric, fragrant cumin and a whisper of cinnamon, and the slow building heat of chili, one of my favourites. Just one 5 kilo box yields over 410 portions. It's gluten free, vegan and veggie friendly, and it's engineered for profit as much as flavour. It's built for smart menus designed for sharp margins and for today's customers in mind. Order yours today at ceres.shop for next day free delivery. And whilst you're sharpening your menu, sharpen your numbers too with our business suite of calculators. These free tools help you know your gross profit, portion sizes, potato yield, labour costs, energy spend, and much more. Whether you run one shop or 10, they'll help you and your team make better decisions faster. On our website, you'll also find fresh insights every week on the Ceres blog, with practical articles to help you stay profitable and ahead of the curve. Quick heads up, episode 220 with Aman and Gavin Desi had a bit of a technical glitch. It's been fixed now, so it would have been all over the place. It was completely unsynchronized. It's now been completely fixed. Just delete the episode, re-download it, and it should be all sorted. Right. Let's hand over to Mark Petrou and his guest, Graham Reed-Stephenson.
Graham, it's really good to have you here. I've known you for a good while now.
Good while, yeah.
And I've got bits of your story, but not all of it. I want you to go back to when you was a small boy, jumpers for goalposts, all of that, and tell me how you got into fish and chips, because you're not first generation, are you? Your parents did it first, didn't they?
My parents did it, yeah. And when I was 7, my father was an electrician. And he was a go-ahead bloke. He had 3 or 4 fellas working for him. And he was wiring a house for a fella. And the bloke had 2 fish shops in Leeds. Okay. And his son, he wanted his son to take over the fish shops. But the son's wife, serving fish and chips was a bit beneath her. So
I see.
So he said to my father, he said, do you fancy a fish shop? So my dad is always like earning money. And, well, yeah, I'll have a go. He said, how much is it? He said, it's £2,000. Now, this must have been 1960. And that was £2,000 for the fish shop and the property, with a 2-bedroom flat above it that hadn't been lived in for 11 years. And my dad said, I think I've got 400 quid. So my dad and mum sold the furniture and they finished it with, I think my mother said last night, £400. So they borrowed 1,600 quid off this guy. And he said, right, he said, it's £40 a week. And he said, first week you knock, he said, I'll have you out. Right. So
wow.
So my dad, he put a bit of a bathroom in there. And as a family, we moved in. And my mother didn't tell her mother that what we were doing, taking a family to live above a fish shop in a flat that ain't been lived in for, 11 years.
Right.
But they did a tremendous job. And my father, whatever he did, he was good at. And my mother was very attractive. And
That's where you get it from, I
I
suppose.
think that's why the fellas, I've had all the fellas say to me now, I said, I used to go on that chippy when your mother were there. I said, well, I used to go and ogle at her. But it just shows you, Mark, within 3 years, my father had bought a plot of land and built, I don't know, it's three, let's say three, but I think it was probably a 4-bedroom dormer stone bungalow with sort of ensuite bathrooms, underfloor heating, patio doors, before anybody had.
Yeah.
And today, if you bought a chippy today, you're not going to earn £500,000 in 3 years, are you? Which would
No,
it was a different job, wasn't it then?
So how many bits of fish to a slab was he, to a stone was he
Well,
getting?
we were talking about this the other day. Yeah, I think we were sort of serving a 3-ounce portion or 3.5-ounce portion.
Yeah.
In those days.
That's why they call it the good old days.
That was the good old days, yeah. And then so I remember our sort of rumbling potatoes when I was 8 and 9, and I enjoyed it. And then my father, then they took another shop, which was called Tom Drake's. So the first shop was in Halton in Leeds, and the second shop was Tom Drake's, which was a bigger shop, and another tremendous shop. And I think my dad borrowed. Mother was telling me last night of some posh friends of theirs. My father said, "Oh, shops come up down the road. It's £5,000." He said, "I've got £2,000. I said, I'm £3,000 short." Yeah, go on. So he lent him the 3,000. So suddenly, they had 2 good shops, and then a third, and then this probably over about a 7 or 8 year period. So in the sort of early 60s, I think the two. The original shop and Tom Drake's were what you call night shops, where we closed at 11:30. So time you were finished, it was 12:30, and it's not a great blooming way of life, that.
No, it's long hours.
Long hours, and I think my father was finding it difficult. I think early days after the war, people were wanting to work, and I think by the late 60s, fellas didn't want the wives going out and coming home at 1 o'clock in the morning after working in a fish and chip shop. So,
of course,
so we sold the 2 night shops, and by then he developed a shop which you knew, which was still got by the side of Leeds Market, which was great from day one, and that was. In those days, the wholesale market was on George Street, which was the side of the retail market. There was a wholesale market, and the wholesale market moved in the early 60s from Leeds city centre to Pontefract Lane. So suddenly, I think there was sort of 15 shops were created where the wholesalers used to be, and my dad took one, and everybody said it won't work. But my mother said that first day they took good money, and it was just absolutely tremendous. And in the good days there, they'd have sort of 3 people frying, 6 or 7 serving. It was just an absolute monster. Was
that one called Gravely's?
That was Gravely's, yeah.
Gravely's, and I suppose. You cut your teeth. Did you do any frying?
Because I did a lot of frying. My father was a fantastic fryer. I was never as good. I used to bollock me because I wasn't clean enough. You know what I mean? I'd always be dripping batter. He'd bollock me, and I tried my best. But he was. My father, working on a range, it was always absolutely spotless. All the time. It was very good. But then we went into. I think we were just down to that one shop, and my father and I went into the frozen food business and started off retailing and then wholesaling. I've got to say, around that time, my father was the first man in Leeds to use frozen at sea fish, and a company arrived in the wholesale market called Rutherford's, and they were from Scotland, and they opened a depot in Leeds. and the bloke who was running it, I remember a fellow called Jim Craig, and he must have pulled my father up. And we went on to frozen at sea fish when everybody else was on fresh. And my dad tells me he used to go to meetings at Fish Fries Federation, you know, sort of once a month, whatever it was, and he'd talk about this frozen fish, and everybody said, "Oh, no.
It'll never take off.
It'll never take on, you know." So. But then we went into the frozen food job, and my mother said, "You two go and do that, and let me run the chippy and that fish shop," because we earned a fortune and we built a £10 million business up, and then we set a manufacturing company up. It was massive, and then it all went wrong, and we were back down to that fish and chip sort of saved us. Yeah, that shop, and we went again from there.
Chippy is really good for cash flow, isn't it? It can get you out of a dark spot when you need it to.
Yeah, we certainly need it to. Yeah. But then, when I set a factory up called Better Bake, and I had a label because when I was in the frozen food business in those early days.
So who was your market when you were doing the frozen food stuff? Were you selling to supermarkets?
Yeah.
So it was a wholesale business, not a retail.
Sort of quite big retailers. And I had an agency, a chip agency called Marquis from Belgium, and we were doing a container of chips a day. And we had a vegetable agency called Ardo, ARDO, and that was tremendous. Fantastic. And so if you had an agency, you could get it. You were obviously getting into, the supermarkets. Yeah. They couldn't get round you. But with me, with my other stuff, I've got to create labels. So I created a label called Better Bake, and had different people producing that for me up and down the country. And around that time, I employed a guy who'd been MD at a pie factory, and they'd been taken over. And he came on as my buyer because it was the pie business then was sort of, I'm talking, it's a long time ago, it was sort of £4 million a year. Wow. And he said to me, he said, listen, why don't we build our own factory? Because at the time there was enterprise zones. Maggie Thatcher had, there was one in the northeast, there was one in the Midlands, one in London, I think, and one in Wales. And in these enterprise zones, you got cheap rent, no rates, and a grant from British Steel. So we set this fantastic factory up. 1.6 million it cost. But we overspent by about 300 grand. And
oops.
So the whole thing went down. But then I managed to buy off the liquidator. So I bought the factory back, and it's such a good business, Mark. And it really, I don't think my father ever recovered really, because 18 months later I sold it for 4.5 million. And remember, this is 40 years ago. The proper money that.
That's real money back then.
And 18 months before, it was just me and my father. But when I had to set it up, I had 10%. So I came out with 450,000, which was pretty good. You can't
knock it.
Don't knock it. And that's when I said to my father, because my dad still had the shop in Leeds, I said, I want to get back into fish and chips. So, right, great. And at the time, Weatherby Whaler was for sale, and it was owned by a fellow called Peter Idle, who was a pal of my father's. And so I had this money. I went to see Peter. I said, I heard rumours he was selling it. He said, oh, no. He said, no, I'm not selling it. Anyhow, I think Murphy's had already done the deal. You know what I mean? I think it was a little bit too late to the party. But that was, apart from our shop in Leeds, that was sort of the best shop in the area. That was the Whaler.
Do you consider that the one that got away?
Yeah, that got away, yeah. And especially when Peter Idle, used to play football with my dad, and, they were sort of great friends. I've never found out really why I missed that. But anyhow, listen, we went on. But then I was going to, at the time, I was sort of back doing still in the frozen food world. And I used to get all the Marks and Spencer's all the rejects. Marks and Spencer, from Bird's Eye.
Yeah.
Because a friend of mine, Tim Rose, they used to make the blocks for Bird's Eye for the fish fingers and 3 ounce buttercod portions, which are the two biggest Bird's Eye's biggest sellers.
Yeah, they come in block form, don't they? They get pressed.
Yeah, so Rose in Hull in those days, they used to produce the blocks for Bird's Eye. So the big hitters, massive company. And Tim used to get all the rejects back, so I said I'd buy them. But I couldn't pick and choose, so I had to buy them all. So some weeks it was 20 pallets, some weeks it was 5. But there was some tremendous stuff. And looking back now, you could have earned a fantastic living just working on those rejects. But anyhow, around about that time, so I was speaking to Tim Rose every day, and I said I want to get back into fish and chips, and there was a good shop for sale in Barnsley, and it was a big shop. Can't remember. It's just the fella had what's it called, Mermaid. I think the fella had 5 shops. And it split up with his brother, and the bank said he would lend him money to buy his brother out, but he had to sell one of the units, and this one was in Barnsley. So I went to see it, and Tim Rose said to me, he said, can I come with you? I said, yeah, of course you can. So when Tim was 28, he had a chauffeur. So came and picked me up, and we went down to see this shop. And it was okay, and I quite fancied it. He said, Graham, don't do it. He said, I want you to come in with me. We're going to create the biggest drive-through fish and chip chain in the UK, and it's going to be called Hudson Bay. So, right, okay. So I did that, and the idea was great. It was fantastic. We were selling Labatt's. It was a Canadian theme. The staff were all dressed as lumberjacks. We were selling Labatt's lager. We didn't sell chips. We were selling Winnipeg wedges.
It sounds 20 years ahead of its time.
It was just absolutely fantastic. But the trouble and the business plan was, we were going to work out of retail estates, retail parks.
Yeah.
And the plan was that to be 2,000 square foot, and that was the plan. And they were so keen to get going. Tim Rose's uncle, who was big into property, had a unit in Hull. And so Tim said, and the other partner was a lad called Johnny Hicks, who was a tremendous marketeer, tremendous. He came up with all the ideas, really. And they got me in for my fish and chip experience. And the problem was, we were going to use loin of cod, which Tim produced, because Tim had a company called 3 Oceans, and they used to produce, and they still do, produce inshore cod fillets.
IQF.
IQF, yeah. And it was a tremendous product market. It was tremendous. But the first site was Hull. And the Hull is 99.9% haddock. And we never really.
I thought you were going to say 99.9% poverty.
No. Well, no,
it's not affluent, is it?
Well, it's not affluent, but do you know, we took decent money, but we should have gone haddock.
We
shouldn't have gone into Hull. We should have gone into Hull. And the whole thing was a disaster. We'd overspent. Tim had employed. We had a board meeting, and Tim had employed the number 2, whoever he was, I can't remember the lad's name, at Ramsden's at the time, and he brought his assistant with him. So, like day one, we had a top manager and his assistant.
Labour heavy.
I mean, like, yes, once we got 4 or 5 going, But anyhow, that was that. That was Hudson Bay. So
you got burnt on. Wow.
£250, yeah. Because I sold to get in there. I had 50,000 quid's worth of Asda shares, and at the time they were 33 pence. A year later, them, if I hadn't sold them shares went to £1.50.
Damn.
So anyway,
Damn. Well, look, as long as I've known you, you've always been a numbers man. You are so good at your numbers. Whenever we have a catch up, you can always tell me what site is achieving what GP, where your numbers are, where your figures are, and you're so good at that. Where does that come from? Because you I've always got the impression that you are a better businessman than you are fish fryer. In that I've rarely seen you on the tools, actually on the
no,
cold face. You work
no.
on your business so hard.
Well, I do think. Listen, I mean, there's some great people in the industry who are a lot better fish fryers, than I am. Like Sir David Miller, who's fantastic.
He'll appreciate that going out to the slides. He is good. He's really good.
And there's a lot of very, very good people. But I suppose I'm a bit of a gypsy, really. I don't want to just work in one place. And somebody once told me, it's like a plumber. Working by yourself, you can earn a good living, with your own hands. But you can't earn for, and I'm not saying I want a Ferrari, but you know what I mean? But you can't sort of earn proper money.
I've got one. They're shit.
You've got one. What you say?
I've got one, but it is crap. Carry on.
I watched last night. There was a film, Al Pacino in that Scent of a Woman.
Yeah.
Have you seen it? He's a blind colonel.
Oh, right.
In the army, great guy. But he said, in life, he said two things. He said, I really like women, really, really like women. But then I like my Ferrari. I'm not that bothered about it. I prefer a nice horse box, but anyway, that's
well, we will come to horses because I know they're a passion of yours, but we'll talk about those later. Now, when I first met you, was around about the time I won Fish and Chip Shop.
That's right, yeah.
And you invited me up to Leeds, and you took me to, obviously.
You've always inspired. You see, you've always inspired me. And you've always given me. I just really like you. And you sort of you give me inspiration. Yeah.
Well, that's very kind. That's very kind. You took me to Leeds Market, and then we got in your car, and you took me to another Gravely's, which was on Elland Road.
Yeah.
Terrific shop. I want to talk about that as well because if I remember rightly, you were doing a lot of your fish cutting and processing at Elland Road.
We were, yes, we were.
And then you took me to the White Rose.
Yeah.
And the site that you had at White Rose impressed the heck out of me.
It was tremendous.
Because I know it was a toppy rent. You paid big rent to be in there, but there was a fish and chip shop next to a McDonald's, and the way
we were taking not quite as much money, but we weren't far off from where we were.
Yeah. Well, what impressed me was the front facing side of that operation. Yeah. You made fish and chips looked really corporate. It looked like it was part of a massive chain. Your branding, your marketing was so good. That fish and chips as a product, the way you presented it and packaged it and sold it, it stood up to McDonald's, and it really looked like it belonged there. It didn't look like, and I loved that. That impressed me day one. And then we went out back, and out back you had some lovely old dears in flip flops cooking the fish and chips. So you'd got the old, the important part about getting the meal.
I think the flip flops were in Leeds actually.
you got the important thing of how you presented it to the public was brilliant, and the important thing about making sure the food lived up to it out the back as well. I mean, your practices out the back were on point as well, in terms of cleanliness, compliance. But I remember one of the fish fries, she'd been with you about 50 years and she could fry the socks off anyone. But she was in flip flops. And I loved that because
not good practice. That it's not good practice.
It took nothing. It took nothing off everything else. I just thought, Graham lets her be comfortable at work, and she was clearly in love with her job. And
you're only as good as your staff, aren't you? I mean, it's sort of. I mean, you know, that lead shop now. I probably go in twice a week, just have a chat with them, and
have you still got that one?
you know when you're Friday in the market.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's doing great numbers. My manager has been with me 36 years.
Ah, you're one of the indoor market, the
indoor
one
market,
that I came to the opening.
Yeah.
Nick
So,
Miller and
Nick Miller,
Brian and Brian Turner,
Brian Turner, yeah.
TV chef.
Yeah, no, it's good, and that's a tremendous bit. But why that's easy to run is there's no Sundays and there's no nights. You see, so those women can have a good life.
Yeah,
and
they're brilliant.
Team. They're just brilliant. It's just brilliant.
They are brilliant. They really are. The product they serve and sell, you know that you don't need to worry about it because they've got. No. They're invested in it. They're brilliant.
And I've got a guy who used to work for me when I had Brian's, and it's called Darren.
Is that in Headingley, Brian's?
He used to, yeah, and he'd worked in Brian's. And when I took Brian's over, he was there, and I thought he was going to be a great manager, but I realised after being there a few weeks, he didn't want to be manager. He just like cutting fish and doing a bit of frying. And he knows more about fish and boats. He knows the bloody captain's names. He knows when they're coming in. He knows every boat, every bloody label. It's just unbelievable. And he's working for me now in Leeds. So he's sorting the fish out down there. He's buying the fish. And what I did wrong when I bought Brian's, I should have just made him fish buyer and sort of control the fish for the rest of the shops. But I didn't. Another mistake.
Well, he's Ellen Road was a great shop.
It was a great shop, and the problem I had there, it had been a very good shop for years, and a couple of young lads bought it and borrowed a load of money, and they went skin. I mean, you can't believe it, can you? That shop, and because the rent was cheap, so I bought it. I think I gave 30 grand for it, and I spent about 80 on it, and at the time I had a lad working for me part time, a real sort of good lad, good fun. He could fry, he could serve it. He was working in Harrogate in the restaurant. He could work behind the bar, and he said to me, "Oh, I said I'd love to get sort of involved, with you financially in a fish shop." And that had just come up. So I said to him, I said, "Listen, I bought Ellen Road if you want to come in." Anyway, his mother lent him the money, and he came in, and it was a mistake. He came in 50% with me, and he just couldn't hack it. He just couldn't hack it.
I would imagine on match days that place.
Oh, tremendous,
just
tremendous. And I should have just bugged. So I sold it to a guy, a pal of mine, who interesting story. This, he was a car dealer, and he got divorced, and he'd gone to work on a boat in one of the Greek islands, and he ended up taking his captaincy test. He was a very proficient bloke, and he ended up being skipper on this boat. And you can't imagine more idyllic life. But I think he got bored, and for 4 years he came back to Harrogate, and he rented one of my flats above the shop in Harrogate. It's called Tomo, and his wife, who was from Moldova, good little grafter, nice lass, and she worked for me. And he was playing about in the flat upstairs, trying to earn a few quid on stocks and shares. And I said to him, Tomo, why don't you buy a little fish shop? I said, she's pretty great. And I found him a little shop in a little village outside Skipton, a little 2-pan range, but a nice shop. But the product was absolutely garbage. I said, if you put our product in there. Anyway, he went in, I trained him, and he trebled only a 2-pan range, and he trebled the takings, doubled his money on the shop. And he bought his shop in Scarborough. And this is talking about margin. And this shop in Scarborough, I'm not saying what it was, because but the fella was doing what a lot of people are doing now. He was selling a 10-ounce piece of fish, as his normal fish and chips.
That's
And at the time, I think
big bit of fish.
it was sort of £6.50. So after Tom had been in there 2 weeks, so you better come over. And he said, I'm losing money. I said, well, you're working on about 45%. I said, either you've got to halve the size of that fish or put your prices up. Anyhow, he did a bit of both, and he lost some turnover, but he turned that shop round, and he bought Ellen Road off me, and he did a tremendous job there. He died, unfortunately, of bloody sepsis. It was shocking. But in 10 years, Mark, he bought 3 properties out of that business. I mean, but he was good. He was on it. He'd phone me at 6 o'clock in the morning. He'd go out walking. He'd keep fit for nothing. And I used to get up early. And he'd say, oh, yeah, last week, great week. We took sort of 8,000 quid, 67%. And so he was, so I got him on that.
Yeah.
Anyhow, but his wife, the shop isn't the same.
Yeah.
As it was. And she's running it now.
I remember when you took me to Ellen Road, it had the luxury of a big prep area, lots of space.
Big
prep and you were cutting your fish for
the shops from there.
Yeah. And you disclosed something to me back then, which I will say now, but I won't mention any names because I don't want to get you into trouble. But back then you told me, I get 90 days on my fish, and I was like, fuck me, who gets 90 days on their fish?
I know.
You won't get that now, but I guess that comes again from the time you spent in the frozen market, and your experience from being in that. You negotiated 90 days. I mean, you only need 7 days to get your money back on your fish because you have a weekly delivery.
I was trying to expand. I think we've got sort of 7 units, and it's very, very difficult. You need a bit of credit. I remember.
So great that you could. You think I impressed you? You impressed the socks off me, mate.
The boss at T Quality, God bless him. He's not dead. I really like it. I've just forgotten his first name. And he phoned me one day. So Graham said, "It was the MD." He said, "I've just been looking," and he said, "You owe more than our Midlands depot." I said, "Bloody hell, I'm doing all right then." Oh, dear.
But you had the sites. You had the sites to cover it anyway. I mean, you had massive turnover sites.
Yeah.
So you were titled Gravely's then. Now I know there was a problem with the name because now you're Fisherman's Wife. Tell me
what happened was, me and my father bought the site in Harrogate.
Yeah.
And it just shows you how things have changed. I think he was taking £3,500 a week, and he wanted. I'm just trying to think what year it was. I've been out of there 15, 16 years. I think I probably hit 10 or 12. So probably it must have been in the sort of late 90s.
Yeah.
And it was 120,000. And a friend of mine was pally with the owner. He'd been a policeman, and this lad called Jimmy Graham he said, my pal's shop's is going to put it on the market. He said, I think. And he'd been in the frozen food game with me. He said, I love the site. He said, it's the middle of Harrogate. You should buy it. So I went to see him. He said, and it's only been advertised a day. And he said, I'll sell you it. He said, but he said, he owned the freehold. And he said, if you take next door, which he also owned, which was a shoe shop, and the shoe shop had gone skin. And he said, I've got planning permission. I always dreamed of having a restaurant next door. So he said, if you can buy it now, I'll shake hands if you take that on. So I phoned my father. He said, have you bought it? I said, well, yes. I said, but he wants, so it's going to be double the rent. He wants to take next door on. and put a restaurant in there. So he said, "What do you think?" I said, "Well, let's have a go." So we shook hands, and the deal was done. And so 10 or 12 years later, that site was taking 30,000, which now in today's money it should be doing 50.
Yeah.
It just shows you. Do you know what it's taking at the moment?
No.
10.
Right.
And they've refit is that £350,000 spent on it.
Ouch.
So now is fish and chip? I don't know. I don't know. Would I want to go in there again? I don't know. Anyway, talking about the name. We're doing tremendous. 30 grand a week, big weeks. It was doing 1.1 million net of that financial year. Bad weeks, 22 grand.
You'd take that, wouldn't you? That's
It was a hell of a business, and I wanted to do my toilet stuff. I've always had a thing about toilets. I like really flash toilets. So I said to my dad, "Listen, I want some decent toilets." He said, "How much is it going to be?" I said, "I've got a quote, Dad." I said, "It's 30 grand." Right. So I phoned the bank manager, which we had in those days. And I said, and I thought, well, I'm not going for 30. I thought I'll go for 50. I said, could do with 50 grand to, because we didn't have a loan. I don't think we had an overdraft. We might have had I think we might have had a 20 grand overdraft thing. Anyhow, he said, "Listen," he said, "I'll do it," but he said, I want a valuation on the business. So I phoned, what's the big agent? They had one in Leeds, but who do you think would be the fish and chip?
Wait, shall we say Rosens?
Rosens, yeah. So Rosens came up, and I think he charged me 200 quid or 250 quid for the valuation.
Yeah.
And he valued the business at 725,000 and the property at 1.1. So that's 1.8 million. So I said, right, thanks. Sent it to the bank manager. Bank manager says, yeah, you can do it. 2 days later, Rosen phones me. He said, "If I get you that money, will you sell?"
Wow. What?
Oh, fucking hell. No, I don't. I was quite happy. I really enjoyed that business. And actually, I did work.
I think you took me. I'm pretty sure
I
you
did work a bit there. I used to drink a lot there.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was tremendous. It was absolutely tremendous business, and it was well staffed. You know, I had a sort of a good squad in the kitchen, two good guys at front of house, and there was. Anyhow, so I said to my father, he said, "Listen, I'm not bothered. He said, if you want to do it." And I thought, well, my dad was in his 70s or late 70s, and I thought, yeah, let's bloody sell it. So I said, yeah. And so these people came along and they bought it. And they gave me £100,000 deposit while they were sorting the finance out. And it was just in it was 2009, it was sort of just when everything had fallen out of bed and it was bloody funny borrowing money. That's
a good time to come into a lump just after the credit crunch. I was on my arse.
He came to me the day before just complete. He said, "I'm struggling." He said he had three banks doing the deal, and he said, "I'm 200,000 short." So he said, "Could I borrow 200,000 off you? Could I defer 200,000?" So, oh Christ, no. I said, "Yeah, all right then." I said, "But I want to charging some property. It's a considerable amount of money. It's 200,000. I want 6%." Anyway, so we shook hands, and but in the sale agreement, he didn't buy Grave the Fisheries, Grave the Seafood Restaurant, Grave the Champagne Bar, anything to do with Gravers, he didn't buy. He said, "I don't want the name." This was a month before. I said, "Listen," I said, "I know you say you don't want the name, but I'll let you have the name until you've paid me the 200,000. Then you haven't got to bother about new signage and menus." And I said, "You just
keep the ship steady so the money comes in." Yeah.
Anyhow, after about 3 months, I said, "All you need to do is replace me." And I said, "Just you get yourself in on a Friday and Saturday, and a couple of nights during the week, and just," I said, "I've got a good team. I don't need to do a lot of work. But I said, these customers, want to see the boss. So they said, yeah, fine. No, he never did. He never replaced me. And we used to have a bar, and my landlord, because I only owned, there was 3 units there, and I owned, and remember, so although it was thick into £2 million, it was only buying 2/3 of the freehold. Where the takeaway was, which was an afterthought, which I'd sort of bolted on 5 years, before that, we're paying rent. And the landlord, a smashing fella, and he used to drink a lot, but he was very sociable. And I used to give him. Remember, he was my landlord, so I used to give him 2 weeks credit at the bar, and then it sorted me out. But he was always in there, and he would bring a lot of other customers in there. His bar bill every month would be £800 or £900.
More than your rent.
It were good. It was good. Yeah, it was great. Anyhow, first thing the new people did, they said to him, Darryl, new people in there, you've got to pay for your drinks. And they took the stools away from the bar, so as much as they bugger off. So they lost him and all the other people he brought in.
That's short-sighted.
They were absolutely stupid. And after 4 months, they said to me, it's only doing, we've only averaged 17,000. Now, to be fair, it was a tough time, and also the road. There'd been a gas leak, and the bloody road in front of the shop. There's quite a few parking spaces, and for months there'd been roadworks there, so it had a lot going against it. So we fell out, and then about 12 months later, me and my father thought we had the name registered, but we hadn't. And it costs you £7,500, and you can go and what's the word? Trademark it.
Protect it.
And so he went, and he went and trademarked Gravely's.
So he lost it.
So we lost it. So I had to, and then he wasn't paying me 200,000, and then he was, because I was in Whitby then, and they were trying to say that I was trading under his name. It got bloody crazy. So I went. Obviously, I had a lawyer. Then we had a barrister who dealt in company law, and he said, "Oh, I said no problem." He said, "Well, I think I'd spent 20 grand at this stage." He said, "Yeah, go to the High Court." I said, "What do you want to do?" He said, next, he said, "You need to deposit 50 grand," and he said, "We'll sort it." I said, "Will I get me costs back if when we win?" He said, "You get a percentage." I thought, so I capitulated, and then I came up with the best fish and chip shop in Australia, or fish restaurant in Australia, was called the Fishmonger's Wife.
Yeah,
and had quite a decent ring, but I thought Fishmonger's a bit old fashioned, so I thought I came up with the Fisherman's Wife, and so that was it. So it changed. So that's why we have the Fisherman's Wife.
Yeah. So from that, you said you were already in Whitby. Is that's the same site, the Khyber Pass?
Khyber Pass, yeah. It's been brilliant, yeah.
What a great spot that is. I think
spot.
If I mean, thinking about all the iconic brands and names and number of fish and chip shops in Whitby, I don't think there's a better location.
I think there's better positions. I think sort of trenches, there's more footfall.
Commercially, but as an eating experience, I don't think you can. You can beat
But
yours.
I've had to sort of, when I took that business, I think we did 1.5 million net last year, and when I bought it, it was doing. It's 15 years ago. It was doing £250,000.
Yeah.
But we've had to up our game really, and we've had to be, and it's taken a lot doing. We've had to be. We're still 65% fish and chips, but we sell a load of mussels, oysters, sell loads of champagne.
But yeah, you've got a multifaceted spot there though, because you can have takeaway, you can have
takeaway, yeah,
but you can have fine dining. You can have a really lovely meal there as well.
We're not top end, but we're sort of, No, we're not middle of the road. We're between middle of the road and top end. I think you don't need to. You don't need to come in a suit or a bloody.
It's not pretentious, but the
It's not
food
pretentious.
it's really top quality
Yeah,
grub that
yeah.
you put out there.
And I've
It's
said,
really lovely.
I've said, all the staff have been down to Rick Stein's and Rosemary Schrag, as much training, as we can do. And I've had sort of chefs go in there and do sort of chef's night. I just think you can never stop learning, can you?
No.
Yeah.
Well, not every fish and chip shop can get away with serving champagne with fish and chips, but it's the kind of place where it's nice to push the boat out, so to speak.
I went in last summer. I went in one day. I think my wife was with me, and we sat down and Sandra liked champagne, so we had half a bottle of champagne and. Table opposite, whether they'd seen us, but they had half a bottle, and then somebody else came and they had a bottle of Prosecco. I'm not kidding you, I think there was 10 tables there with sparkling wine on the table. You don't see that very often. It might have been just a bit of a one-off that lunchtime, but no, and we sell some nice wines, and I've just got one wine supplier who's who's good, and I give him a full list, and I just said that providing I get 65%, you can't get full margin. Talking about margin, you can't get full margin on champagne and top end wines, and you can't get full margin on lobster.
Yeah.
But I think if you tried to get your full margin on lobster, it'd sound ridiculous. Yeah. So I always like to be able to sell half a lobster for 29 quid, or a full lobster for 55.
Still a good margin.
Yeah, it's cheaper actually with 49 quid this week for a full lobster, and they're a good size.
Yeah.
We've got sort of a local guy who's got 500 pots out, virtually just outside the restaurant. So
yeah,
no, it's good. No, it's great.
It's great. Now you've had some success in the awards as well, in the fish and chip awards.
We got a second in
restaurant
in the restaurant, yeah,
which is very good. So you've always entered awards and that, and you are very much part of the fish frying community. You seem to know everyone, and everyone seems to know you.
With some great people. I mean, so Paul at Carefree and
What's it like? What's it like in peak season in Whitby with other chip shops? You all get along
very well. We'll get along, or certainly Quayside are very, very good.
Frisco's, lovely family.
Frisco's are really good, and actually we're buying chips off them.
So they're now actually prepping.
They're very good. They're very, very good because I think Triple F are pretty good. Obviously, we stopped, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago rumbling potatoes, and I think Triple F are great. But I think Fusco's plant, they've got a dryer in there, and so the product's a lot drier. In fact, funny enough, the other day I saw somebody, a new person, only been there 2 days, probably haven't had enough training. They tipped, which I don't know how on earth does. They tipped half a bag of 10 kilo bag of chips into a pan, and Christ, I thought we were going to. The pan just sort of boiled over, because of the water. I mean, you should never ever put chips in from a bag. We've got a tub there to put them in, but
yeah. Oh dear. Have the Fusco's managed to get you selling their ice cream yet? Because
no, it's difficult. But I don't think they want. I think no. I've got a Mr. Whippy machine in the takeaway at Whitby, and we sell quite a few Sundays in the restaurant. We sell a lot. And funny enough, Weatherby Whaler, they've got Taylor's whipping machine in all their restaurants.
Yeah,
good. I like ice cream.
It's a good addition.
Great.
Get the spend up and get them to have a pudding as well.
Mark, them bloody machines. I think 10 or 12 grand. They're not cheap, and they take a bit of work as well, because every 2 weeks it's like an hour's job cleaning them. And you got to put them back together. It's not
Yeah.
a simple operation.
Yeah, they're tricky. You've got to sanitize them or rebuild them, and
Yeah,
then hope they don't leak once you've got
yeah,
them back together.
yeah.
Now,
No.
I hold a small claim to fame. I think I was the person that introduced you to the light bite meal or the mini fish meal.
Oh, you were.
Um,
Yeah,
um,
and that's how I know Stelios, because I've got him down. I've got him down as analysed man in my.
you've always done that. You've always pitched ideas to trusted friends, and you do your homework. Is that because of the times you got burnt on drive-through takeaways and stuff like that? Do you think that's as you've got older, you've started to trust your colleagues and your friends and your peers in
Oh, I
the
think so.
industry?
Yeah, I think when you came up with, I think we're sort of tell the audience it was, we were cheating a bit, weren't we? Because it was, you said to me when we came down, your bags were marked up 300 calories, weren't they?
Yeah, they were.
They were. And I
I
went, and I obviously copied you. And
yeah, yeah.
I remember the tale.
It's closer to 4.
I
think.
had a customer email me one day, and he said, Mr. Stevenson, he said, we've been coming to your fish and chip shop in the market, for years. And we come once a week, and they're fantastic fish and chips. But we're really sort of health conscious, and but now you're doing this 300 calorie. We're going to come 3 times a week. And I thought, oh Christ, is this somebody I'm going to go at me? And
Yeah,
well, so that's when we analysed it, and it was actually 409, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, it was Mark Drummond, bless him, brought it to my attention that
Did it? I didn't know that.
maybe I was being a bit ambitious with my calories, and I made a fundamental mistake. I looked at what a standard portion was and halved it, because what I was essentially doing was doing half a portion, but it doesn't work like that. An exact half portion has got more than half the calories of a full portion. So I had it calorie tested, and it was 300 and something. It was closer to 4 than 3.
Yeah, it was.
So
anyhow, listen, it's been very, very good. So we switched to 400, and
Mark Drummond's never been wrong since or before. So he really does know his stuff, doesn't he, Mark?
Oh, it's tremendous. I think he's a tremendous operator.
Yeah, very, very good.
Yeah, tremendous. Yeah, there's some really good operators, isn't there? Some good shops.
Yeah,
some great shops.
So you've got a son. His name's Jackson. I've met Jackson a few times. He's a terrific lad. He stayed away from fish and chips for a while.
Well, I didn't want him to come into fish and chips. I think when he was 16, I sent him to a good school. They went to St. Peter's, where David Miller went. Great school. And he said, Daddy said, if I get good A levels, can I not go to uni? I said, yeah, of course you can. Yeah, no problem. And he wanted to make a career out of horses. And he was and is a very, very, very good rider. And he was sort of national through juniors, a national champion at sort of 8, 12, 14, 16. He won Olympia under 18s. He represented England Senior Nations Cups 9 times. He got to 195 in the world. But it's a tough old job. And you're competing against billionaires, not just... and you're only as good as your horses. So it's still... and I want it. I don't... It's great is in the business with me, but I think he could earn a lot more money in horses than fish and chips.
But you've got a love of horses too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think if I'd be a lot wealthier if we hadn't... my daughter was junior European champion, and I think since the war there's only been 7 kids, have won that. And now my granddaughter's riding. She's junior national champion last year. She's 13, and so every weekend I'm going back to what I was doing 30 years ago with Jackson and Charlotte, and so Sandra and me, we go to the shows, sort of, most weekends, and it's but if people who aren't in horses don't understand it, don't get it, but it's a way of life, and it takes over your life, unfortunately. But we've no need to do it, and we do it. We do it because we love it. And my father liked horses. In sort of, not saying he got me into it, but he loved horses, so he always sort of supported me. And I tried to make a living when I left school as a rider, but I wasn't good enough, and I wasn't bad, but I knew there was a lot of blokes in Yorkshire who were better than me. So I packed up and went into business, and then and to compete show jumping is very similar to Formula One.
Yeah.
You need three things. You need a fantastic horse, or to win championships. You need a fantastic horse, or a fantastic car, a Ferrari, or Mercedes, or you want a great driver, Lewis Hamilton, or a great jockey, John Whittaker. And the third thing, you need good backup. That's your facility. So with the motor racing, it's the team behind them, the garage.
Yeah. And resources
horses, it's the team, the vets and the training and the facilities you got at home. And if you get all those three right, you can do good. You can do average if you've got 2 out of the 3. But so we've got a small farm, and I've got great facilities. We've got an indoor arena, outdoor arenas, horse walkers, plenty of land, so we can. Yeah, so we've got a chance to do quite well.
Yeah, and you go to Portugal quite a bit. Is that with the horse riding as well?
Well, only because in Portugal, in Vilamora, just behind the Victoria Golf Course, is a show jumping centre, and people from all over the world, America, Canada, New Zealand, in the spring and autumn, and it's a great place to be. And the money's quite good too. The prize money's pretty good, and you can earn a few quid there. So yeah, for the last 20 years, we've been spring and autumn in Portugal. There's also, we've got to say, there's 2 shows in Spain at the same time. And Jackson this spring, he was in Oliva Nova, which is near Valencia in Spain, and that's a good show. But I like Portugal. I wish, perhaps, I think I'm too old now, but I probably wish 20 years ago I'd probably moved to Portugal.
What's the long-term plan? Because Jackson's being a bit more involved. Do you see there being more fishermen's wives? Or are you just content with what you've got?
I think if the right, I think, and because you would have done it if it was. I mean, I take me out to Wetherby Whaley. They're in 6 or 7 other shops.
Yeah, great. I'm a huge fan.
I'm a big fan, and they're all good size. And it's what we were saying before. They're all very, very, very good size. And obviously, the first big one, the bought, in Wetherby. Then the next one was good, and the third one was good, and everyone's, and they're good at what they do.
I love the original sighting that Harry Ramsden's in Guiseley. I think it's a great site as well.
Yeah, and then Ramsden couldn't make it go, so they came out and it just shows you. I mean, Ramsden's at the time, and I mean when Murgatroyd's opened near the airport in Leeds, and I think probably Murgatroyd's would be possibly the best. I haven't really had a good look at the accounts, but it is possibly the best fish and chip shop, I think, in England. That I think it's just got got everything, and that's about 4 or 5 miles from Ramsden's.
Yeah.
In the day, 20 odd years ago, when Ramsden's were taking 60, 70, 80,000, and Murgatroyd's opened, and they went skint really to start with, and then new guys sort of bought it, and for nothing, and they reversed that, and a few years later they're taking 60, and Ramsden's have dropped to 30. But as I say, attention to detail, Murgatroyd's, Ramsden's had lost it at the time, but now Wetherby Whaley are in there, and
It's
they know
very
what they're
good.
doing, and it's excellent. Yeah,
It's
and it's
very,
good
very
that
good.
two fantastic businesses quite close together. It just
Yeah.
it gladdens my heart, and I think, well, yeah, fish and chips is there's life in it. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your thoughts on the current climate? Obviously fish prices are what they are, and how do you feel about about the
To be honest, I think. I mean, you and I, we've never known fish prices like this, have we?
no, never.
Ever. And I don't think we can. See, it's different. And this is why I'm pleased I ain't at the moment got a big chain. I think at the coast, where we are, with obviously our biggest shop, people are on holiday. And
They're
I
in a
think
spendy mood, aren't
they're
they?
in
They're
a
in a
spend. It's
spendy.
different, isn't it?
They're in a spendy mood.
And you can get. I mean, sort of I think our small fish and chips sat down is sort of 16 quid. So
Yeah,
it's
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 okay.
different. It's okay, but I just think what's happened now. I mean, we've never paid. I've always paid more than minimum wage, but I think when minimum wage went up this year, I think we had probably about 5% of our staff on minimum wage. So obviously they went up, but I put everybody up. So I mean, it's same old thing. I think if you're running a fish and chip business, you need to. If I used to say, you need to have money coming through in the till before you've got any business. But let's say you've got some money coming in the till, and I think, and it's difficult with takeaways. You really want 70% GP, but you can't get that. You can't get that. But in our restaurant, we're getting that and a bit more, but your wages are more. So really, 30% food cost, 40% wages, including national insurance. So you got 70, you got 30% left. And I think if you fix costs, providing you're not in a massive rental somewhere like what we've got in York, you want to be working on 15% net.
Yeah.
And I think that's what everybody should be aiming for. But it's harder. It's a lot easier said than done, to get that. Now, if you only achieve 65%, and your wages then 32, 35, you're not so bad. But all the time, you should be looking at that 15%.
Yeah. You've got another business as well, haven't you? You've got a little cafe.
Oh, got the cafe. I mean, when I bought Whitby, I always wanted. I nearly bought Trenches, about 5 years before I bought Whitby,
Right.
and I went to a pal of mine was serving them a fellow called Brian. What was it? But anyhow, he had a good business relationship with Trenches, and he said the boss had a slight stroke, and there was him and his two sisters, and he said, I've told him about you. We're doing well in Harrogate. He said, I'm going to take you over there. He said, I think you should buy it. Brian Fawcett, my pal. So I went over to meet him. Tremendous. That was the best business. Mark, they were earning net profit £500,000 a year 20 years ago.
Bingo.
And only working 8 months a year.
Oh.
That was the business. Seriously, not just 1 year, 3 years before, 500,000, 500,000, 500,000.
Wow.
Paying tax on 500,000. Now, I don't think there's a business, fish and chip business anywhere, that was as good as that.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful. Every year when they shut, they used to sort of spend some more money on the place. It was just immaculate.
Yeah.
So I said, how much? What? He said, Brian's telling me all about you. And he said, I love your fish shop in I think his sister lived in Leeds, so he knew the market shop. So I love your shop in Leeds. And I said, well, I said, I'd love it. I hadn't told my wife I'd gone over to see it. I said, where do you want to be? He said, it's 2 million. I said, bloody hell. He said, but what I'll do, he said, I'll give you an option on the property for 5 years and give me £1 million for the business. So I said, listen, I said, I don't know whether I'll be able to finance it. I said, I'll shake your hand if I can get the money together. He said, yeah, you'll do for me. Anyway, I went to, and I just sold something, so I had a few quid. And I went to the bank and I was trying to borrow something like 600,000 of them. And they said they'd do it, but they wanted my house. And I've been close to the wind before, and I promised my wife I'd never put the house up. So never.
You fool! What did you make that promise for?
I mean, I shouldn't have done. I mean, it was absolutely bloody crazy. Anyhow, about 2 months later, I went back. I said, listen, I can't do it. I said, listen, but when you're trying to borrow money, everybody knows. Yeah. So word gets round. And the people that bought it actually gave 2.25. So he took me out for lunch, did the owner.
Because you got him an extra quarter.
Said, you got me an extra £250,000, Graham. I said, well done. I said, I wish I'd have bloody bought it. But so anyhow, so then 5 years later, I bought our present site. But when I was looking at that, there was a cafe for sale at Scarborough on the front, and wonderful position. And I nearly bought it, and it was similar money to what I gave for Whitby, but because it was a cafe and I never run a cafe, I know I was running a restaurant, but I bought Whitby. But then 3 years ago, I drove past one day and I went in, and the owner was there, and I managed to do a deal, and I bought it, and it's the best thing I've ever done. And I think coffee's great. We're selling 400 coffees every day, and 600 on a Saturday and Sunday at £3.95. I mean, it's just great. It's just, and I made some notes actually last night. We were talking to my mother. When I was 17, 18, my father on holiday had met, and they used to go out a bit, a fellow called Tony Monnicadam, and he was Charles Fortey's right-hand man. And so my dad were always talking to him. He must have bloody liked my dad. And he came up to Ceres one day, and they'd taken over a business at Fortey's. And part of the business, there were 6 coffee shops called Cardoma. And so I was, I think, 18. So it's a lot of years ago, 53, 60, 73, 1971. And they said to me, Dad, lease it off us. So we leased it off Fortey's for a year and see how you go. And I mean, Christ, I think Fortey's must have, that was before the Costas and everything. That was a great, great brand. And I worked there, and I used to be in right in the centre of Leeds, and there was a cafe underneath, a cafe bar underneath. On the ground floor, there was, I used to grind coffee. There was sort of 20, 30 different coffees you could buy. And he used to sort of have two big grinders. He used to sell coffee by the ounce. And then there was a self-service restaurant on the first floor, and then a kitchen above that. So everything was dumb waiter. There were 50 staff. It was an absolute bloody nightmare. And my father was ill, and I was running it, and it was just, I couldn't control it. So, but when I think back, coffee, that was probably the first sort of major sort of coffee chain, or it could have been. So anyhow, so I've always thought about coffee, and when I look, Mark, at the likes of Costa and Cafe Nero and Starbucks, and their growth has been fantastic, hasn't it? And I thought, well, how on earth have they done it? But they've done it because the setup costs are sort of half what a fish and chip shop is.
Less than half.
And the profit is a lot better. So they've been able to... So coffee's a way forward.
Yeah, it is. I agree. I mean, a lot of people say to me that, that they'd like to do something like that with tea, but coffee is such an easier product to make consistently, and tea is such an individual drink. Everybody
I mean,
likes
we
it
sell plenty of
differently.
teas. We sell
Yeah,
plenty of teas, Mark.
yeah,
But
but it's not like coffee.
no,
It's just not like coffee.
I've
And
got I've got 3 of them two group machines,
yeah,
and we've got
wow,
some good people on them.
3 of those. So
3 of
you
them.
can.
We can knock
Wow,
some stuff out. Yeah.
that's bonkers. Yeah, so that's a good business, and it's done by 6 o'clock, isn't it?
5 o'clock. 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock. So
It's perfect. And I think with a cafe, the expectation isn't as much as a restaurant, is it? I think I'm not, which it's all sort of locally produced. I've got a lady who makes. We're doing 120 cakes a day. I've got this lady locally who made cakes previously for the people I bought it off. So obviously, local butcher. Bacon is local. So eggs are local. It's a great. It's a love. I was there this morning. It's great. It's fantastic.
it's a nice addition to
Yeah, but as I say,
your portfolio.
There is. I'm not saying if a great fish and chip shop came along, we wouldn't have a go. And
Yeah. So you've never been afraid to sell a business. You've never been
No.
afraid to buy one. You're really good at your marketing. You're really good at your numbers, and you've got your hands dirty as well. And that's just 5 things straight off the bat that I really admire about you. When do you hang up your apron? When is Jackson taking over? What is your
honest to God, I don't know, and I don't know whether Jackson feels confident enough to. As I say, I prefer. I wish he'd sort of just keep buying and selling a few horses and coaching and show jumping. But I think he's enjoying. I think he's enjoying it. We've got an office at home now on the farm. So I've got a really good girl, Tracy, who sort of runs everything. Then I've got another part-time girl called Steph, who's fantastic, and they're good. The problem solvers, you know what I mean? They just they sort things out. So I think whatever the team, the Leeds team are fantastic. If them 2 top people down there said they'd retire, I think I might sell that. But at Whitby, our general manager's we've lost him. He's gone to do his own thing, which is good for him.
That's Steve.
That's Steve.
Yeah, great guy. Met him many times.
He worked for me 15 years. Fantastic fryer. Very,
great guy.
Good lad. So, but anyhow, nobody's indispensable, and the team. I've got front of house. I've got new kitchen managers worked there sort of 8 years. So,
and you had Mr. Miller in to sharpen everyone up.
Yeah. Mr. Miller's. Yeah. Very, very good. So yeah. Sort of onwards and upwards. But listen, everything's for sale, isn't it? I mean,
always.
I've said to, with the horses every time we go out, but with the horses we're like a football team, and you'll if you can get a bit of profit, you'll sell your best striker. So you'll sell our best horse.
I love that.
You've got to keep going.
I love that about you. Is there anyone before we wind this up that you want to particularly mention? And also, where can people come and taste your finery, find out more about you? Do you have a website? And
I think we've got a decent website. I mean, I don't think our website's great.
It's a holding space where people can find out more. As much as anything.
But I mean, obviously, Fisherman's Wife I'm proud of Fisherman's Wife at Whitby. Design outlets pretty good. It's fish and chips in a
retail setting,
in a retail sort of environment. The market in Leeds is great. I love it because I really like the stuff I've got down there.
It's a great site. I was there opening day with Brian.
It was good.
Brian Turner. We had a few electrical issues that day as well. But
Brian Turner wanted me to, and I'm saying I'm too old. He wanted to open a fish and chip / pie and chip shop in King's Cross.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
He was dead keen to do it. Was
he's not been well
he
recently.
ain't been well, as he now?
Yeah,
I said we took well, Brian.
I remember on opening day, didn't you go home with his coat on and he went home with yours?
Yeah, but the funny thing was it was exactly the same, very, very similar coat.
Blazers, weren't they?
A blazer, but he had his emblem on, which his MBE emblem. And
right.
we went straight out from there to dinner and was sat with some people. And she said, "Oh, Graham, she didn't tell you."
Didn't know you had an MBE.
MBE. I said, "I haven't."
I haven't.
You
got Brian Turner's blazer on. Yeah.
Anyhow, I finished. He was staying in York, so I went and had a breakfast with him in York, and
swapped him back.
We've been pals,
yeah. Yeah. I'm Brian and I have got a mutual friend. I'm actually trying to get Brian on the podcast. Actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that'd be good. Yeah,
I think he's got some fantastic stories to tell, and I've worked with Brian a few times on some TV and some other stuff. So yeah, he's a top guy, amazing chef as well. Really, really good chef.
Oh, great chef.
Okay, is there anyone else you want to give a mention to before we wind it up?
No, I mean, I think sort of Richard Ord. There's most people in fish and chips. The top ones I've been to see, and everybody's always been very welcoming, and
Richard's a lovely guy,
and that's another great shop, isn't it?
Yeah,
great shop.
Fantastic. Well, both of them, Ocean Road and Seafood Temple, they're just iconic. Who wouldn't want a slice of that? And great place to visit if you want to show fish and chips off. They're both amazing shops and lovely family. Richard's not really into podcasts. I've asked him, but yeah, well, you can only ask somebody so many times, and they then you start to become annoying. And I think I've probably asked about as many times as I dare. There's other people that I've asked that.
I tell you what, in the early days, in fish and chips, and we in Leeds Market, we'd always had sort of English ranges. I think we had I think we'd had a Hopkins, and then there's a guy called Terry Haddock ranges.
I've heard of Haddock ranges.
And then we bought Florigo off Bill Shaw.
Yeah,
and Bill was great.
What a character! I've written Bill's story in my first book. I wrote a whole chapter on Bill Shaw, and he's doing a lot less these days. But I've asked Bill through mutual friends if he'd come on. It's not really.
He took me up, but and I can't remember when it was. Possibly when I sold Better Bacon, had a few quid, and he took us up to the Ashvale was on the market,
right?
And he took us up there, and
I'm surprised he didn't take you to Busy Lizzie's because
he did. No, he took me there as well. Yeah, but
what an amazing shop that is.
Fantastic, but both times I realised that the sons in the business didn't really want to sell.
No,
and quite right. But no, I like Bill. So then, because I'm a creature because I like people. When Bill and Paul then went to KFA, I moved with them.
Of course.
So I moved with the people. So I like, and I think suppliers. I mean, Simon Smales has been wonderful supplier. Proper bloke is Simon. If he said, do anything for him, he's tremendous.
Well, you've mentioned some real legends there. They've all got stories to tell, and there's not one of them that I wouldn't have on to tell their story because they've all made such a massive impact on the industry. But some people just I've tried to get them on, and I can only ask so many times. I'm glad I got you though, really glad because you are well known and you are
and obviously I buy quite a lot of fish off at Warner's. They've been good to me and good to deal with. Two real good suppliers there. And then it was funny. Derek has retired from Tea Quality, and I've known Derek when I was 17 and working for my father, and used to go down to and at Georgia we've always used Grimshaw's batter mix. We're now using Ceres in Whitby, And he used to go down to Grimshaw's, and there were millers, all sorts of flour, and obviously they used to do a fish and chip flour. And Derek used to work at Grimshaw's. And then Grimshaw's were taken over by Webster Craven, who used to render beef dripping.
Right.
And Derek sort of stayed with them. And then Tea Quality was formed. And he stayed right through his career. I think he only retired. He's the same age as me. I think he retired about 6 months ago.
Yeah, I saw his retirement. And again, someone that maybe I should get Derek on for a chat.
You should get Derek on, yeah.
Yeah, I might.
And then I think Colbeck's, great family.
Yes.
Great family. And
well, I've spoken to Georgina about coming on.
George, they're great. A funny story about Colbeck's. We got invited to a dinner up in, it must be 6-7 years ago. And we ended up on the top table, Sandra and myself. And Sandra likes a glass of champagne. And there was a champagne reception. And Sandra had a few drinks. And Miss Colbeck, senior, Sandra said, can I get another? Oh, she said, yeah, I'd like another champagne. He bought her a bottle of Bollinger.
Very nice too.
I invited him and his missus to Whitby a month later, and we had a bottle there. And no, great people.
They are a nice family too. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming on. Really, really appreciated it. I hope you feel maybe cleansed from sharing your experiences, warts and all. It's
always, as long as we haven't upsetting her, we've said nothing controversial.
No, not at all. It's your story as you remember it, which is what I love. I love. It's a really good way when you're cutting fish to listen to somebody tell their story, and I'm sure the listeners will get.
We'll have to, Mark,
everything out of it.
We'll have to have a bit of lunch at Stanford before summer's over.
Well, I'm up your way for 4 days. I'm staying in Staves for the first week in August. So
really?
I'll be up your way, but I'm not bringing my dog this time because she drank so much seawater. She was ill last time. So,
so Staves here?
Yeah, in Staves, just up the road. So, yeah. Okay. So I might look you up. I'm only coming for 4 days. But,
are you coming just with a wife or coming with a few people?
It's a family thing. There's a couple of families staying together. But I'll be able to sneak out for a cup of tea.
Well, give us a shout, yeah, and give me a shout. All right, my friend.
Look forward to it. Thank you so much. All the best. Cheers.
And that's a wrap on today's conversation with Mark Petrou and Graham Reed-Stephenson. To let us know what you're thinking about this episode, jump onto the Ceres Podcast Facebook group. We'd love to know your opinions. Don't be shy. Come on, go on there and let us know what you think. Don't forget to use our business suite of calculators. They're trusted by fish and chip shops, restaurants and street food businesses across the UK. They are completely free and they work brilliantly. If there's more you want, let us know. And for more insights, check out the Ceres blog. It is completely packed with articles on cost control, pricing, loyalty and much more. Many articles written by me, our content creators, some of our podcast guests. There's just so many great articles on there. They are written to help you run a smarter, stronger business. Thanks for tuning in. Keep your ranges sizzling, your margins sharp, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Ceres Podcast.